Liv and BB and Ingmar and Fora. This is Persona. I'm not watching The Exorcist.
I thought you said in a previous episode that you were going to.
I can't do it.
It's not. I don't think it is. It's not what you're expecting. And Max von Sydow's in it. I don't understand.
Know, I love
and he gives a
him.
great performance. What if we got William Friedkin on, the director of The Exorcist?
Only if we got him on, then I'd watch it.
Yeah?
That's a challenge for you, Greg. Get him on.
What if we got Mark Kermode, the British film critic, whose favorite film of all time is The Exorcist? What
I would
about
also
him?
do it for him.
Okay. So we're just putting it out there. Mark Kermode or William Friedkin, if you guys want to come on our podcast to talk about The Exorcist, Jackie will watch
So
it.
finally, that you guys, yeah.
I think it's worth it just to make Jackie watch this movie.
Exactly. And not sleep for.
You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Personal
Come on.
shopper. made
Ellen
me not watch-
Burstyn.
Oh, I love Ellen Burstyn.
Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow. Again, this isn't some trailer trash horror movie.
I understand,
This is a
but
classy
I'm
movie
extremely
here.
sensitive. I'm gonna tell you, personal shopper. I had knots in my stomach. I couldn't sleep.
No. Well.
But that was more of like a. Oh, we'll talk about it. Hi.
Hi. Welcome to Seen and Heard. This is the podcast where two entertainment assistants, Jackie and I, run through the Sight and Sound Top 100 Greatest Films of All Time list. I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
This week, we're back to our ping pong action. I feel like I haven't said ping pong in a few episodes because we do ping pong between the top and the bottom of the list, working our way towards the center.
What number is this? I literally
It's like
have
18 or
5
19.
pages of notes, and nowhere in those notes does it say what number it is.
Yeah, so this is number 17 on the list. This is a tie. It's tied with our film from 2 weeks ago because we do ping pong, which was Seven Samurai.
Mm-hmm.
So in the eye of Sight and Sound, this is tied. These are on the same level.
How many votes?
48 votes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And if you guys go on the website, you can click. It says "See who voted," and you can click and see which critic voted.
You can.
Which is so fun.
Yeah.
What else have you been watching? What else have you been watching?
I saw the first 2 episodes of the Amazon Rings of Power show, the new Lord of the Rings series. Did you see any of that?
No, I wanted to though.
It does not. It misses the mark, unfortunately. I was pretty excited. I was actually very excited. The whole time Game of Thrones was on, I was like, why can't we just have a Lord of the Rings show? Like, that's what I want to watch.
Yeah.
And we got one. And
Same time as a new Game of Thrones.
a new Game of Thrones spinoff. Yeah. House of the Dragon or something. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm here to say that the show is a disappointment. And actually, even after the first episode, I was like, should I even watch more? And I kind of forced myself to watch episode 2. And yeah, it's it looks expensive. Outside of that, I think it's just not good.
Why?
It's really unimaginative. It's like young Galadriel and young Elrond. And therein lies the problem of like recasting Hugo Weaving and Cate Blanchett, of like, they're such great actors, and to have someone playing like a younger Cate Blanchett.
Also, they're immortals, so they would have looked the same.
Exactly. It's just, not to be mean too, but most of the casting is just kind of bad. All the actors feel like TV actors. They feel like network TV actors, unfortunately. And
that's kind of mean.
They do. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. It's a big disappointment, and I don't think I'm going to continue after 2 episodes, which is saying a lot because I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan. Like, not so like I haven't read the Silmarillion, but like I've read the books, I've read The Hobbit, I've seen the films. I've seen the films many times. I saw all 3 Hobbit movies, which I need to get some gold medal for. But you know what? Honestly, this sounds really mean. As much as I didn't like the Hobbit movies, I would take them any day over this new series.
Really?
Because it actually, even though that feels like this jokey, ridiculous version of Lord of the Rings, it still kind of has like some of that magic, whereas the new show is like devoid of any of.
Wow.
Honestly, what it comes down to is the new show, doesn't feel like a passion project. It just feels like Amazon went, we need a Game of Thrones. And they just they just said, write this, make this. We're going to pay $1 billion to get the rights and make the show. Whereas like Peter Jackson, his whole life was like waiting to tell the story of Lord of the Rings. And you feel that in the films, like it's a passion project. And unfortunately, the new series Rings of Power is just a piece of Amazon product. Outside of Rings of Power, which was a disappointment, the other big one for me was I saw the new David Bowie movie, Moon Age Daydream. Not documentary, really. It's kind of a meditation on the life of David Bowie by the filmmaker Brett Morgan, who did the Kurt Cobain Montage of Heck documentary from a few years ago. That was really good. So I saw this opening night at the Chinese Theater in IMAX, and wow. As someone who never got to see David Bowie in his lifetime, who desperately wanted to, I had a pact with my friend Trisha where we were like, okay, we have this pact, like the next time David Bowie tours, we're going to go. And it unfortunately never happened. And he passed away in 2016, which is I'm still recovering from, I think, along with the rest of the world. And so as someone who never got to experience him in concert, and they just made some really shitty unofficial Bowie movie like 2 years ago that didn't license any of his music. That was just like some shitty reenactment. I don't even remember what it was called, but it looked like a complete waste of time. To have a movie that was sanctioned by his estate and his family, took the filmmakers 7 years to make this movie. Wow. It was incredible. It's not a documentary so much as it is a meditation on his life. It's almost a film essay narrated by Bowie himself. There's a lot of footage. There's footage in there that we've never seen before. And yeah, I mean, the director, Brett Morgan, has a great taste. Like all the music is like really well picked. Like he walks the line of like picking the big hits and deeper cuts that are really great. But yeah, I was very emotional. What was cool too is we went to the Roosevelt. We went to the Roosevelt after the show, and we were at their poolside bar. Mm-hmm. And on our way out, we saw the director, Brett Morgan. He was with a group of people. And my friend went up to him. She's like, "Oh, are you Brett?" And he's like, "Yeah." And then we got like 10 minutes. Like the four of us had like a 10-minute chat with him after the movie. He got all excited because my friend told him that she was on mushrooms during the movie. And he got so excited. He jumped up on his chair. It was like, "Oh my God." He's like, "That's how I wanted to market the movie. But the distributor said no." And like, he was like, "I was stoned the whole time I was making this movie." But yeah, we had this great like 10-minute post-film chat.
So cool.
Which it just like capped the night off so well. So yeah, that was an incredible experience. And if you are a Bowie fan, like go see Moon Age Daydream. Like holy shit, see it in a theater. It's in IMAX. I'm not sure how much longer it's going to be in IMAX for, but oh my God, it's 2.5 hours of just pure bliss. And I could not have hoped for. I know the director shies away from calling it like anything definitive, but in my mind, it's like no film is ever going to top this in terms of being a definitive David Bowie movie.
Nice.
Holy shit. Incredible.
And I loved him.
Anyway, what have you been watching?
So cool. Well, I watched Personal Shopper.
I love Personal Shopper.
I love it too. It's just so strange and ethereal, and like the last scene leaves this lingering taste in your mouth that just you can't really think about anything else. You're just like, I don't know. It's just so, because one, like the tone and the open-endedness of it, that certainly helps. But it's also just like, you're just like, holy shit, what did I just watch? Like, what was that? In the best way possible. It's really good. It's really, really good. I don't know why I'm at like a loss for words right now.
Do you know what I love about it is the fact that it's a ghost movie that's a drama.
It's a ghost movie, yes.
It's not a horror film, which is what I like about it. It plays that stuff straight, and it's not trying to scare you. It's just like, oh yeah, there's a ghost.
Exactly. I loved it. I also watched L'Eclise, the Antonioni movie. Left me really cold.
Oh, really?
And not in an Antonioni way. Not in like, you're supposed to feel cold. It was more of a just like, it really did very little for me. Some gorgeous shots. Like I took multiple screenshots because it's beautiful, but like too many stocks. They're like at the stock market for a lot of the movie. And also there's this really horrible blackface scene that comes out of nowhere. Like out of nowhere. And it just left a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the movie. It happens kind of early on. I don't know. I was really disappointed.
It's my least favorite of that trilogy.
Yeah. Oh, easily.
Yeah.
The other two are incredible.
I still like it though. There's something about. I've only seen it once, but there was something very enigmatic about it.
It's just really beautiful.
Yeah.
I think it's two of the most beautiful people who ever lived.
Yeah.
Like together on screen.
Yeah. For me, it goes in order of preference. Like like La Ventura is my favorite, then La Notte, then
I like
Lakeleys.
La Notte more.
Oh, interesting.
I like La Notte and then La Ventura.
Oh, I love La Ventura. I saw one more. I just want to mention because it's brand new, and I'll just very quickly mention it because I'm sure a lot of people have not seen it yet. I did see Pearl, the Ty West film, the new A24 movie, which is a prequel to Ty West's film from earlier this year, X. I liked X, didn't love X. I really liked Pearl.
That's what I'm hearing.
And Mia Goth really is so good in it. Actually, Scorsese just came out and just praised the movie. Yeah. It's really good. Yeah. Well, I mean, what A24 is doing is just on another level for the most part. And yeah, it was the best thing about it. Well, X is more of kind of a throwback 70s porno slasher. Pearl is a character study. And for that reason alone, like I like this significantly more than X because it's not so much a slasher movie as it is just like a cartoonish character study. But Mia Goth, I really think, I mean, she's been around for a while, but I think this is like, it definitely heralds like a moment for her.
That's
like
good.
She's someone to look out for.
Does Mia Goth give you like kind of Shelley Duvall vibes?
Yes, in fact,
I was just gonna, yeah.
Lots of people are saying that. Molly whispered to me as we were watching Pearl. She was like, Shelley Duvall. And I was like, yeah, kind of. And she also kind of reminds me of both Shelley Duvall and Sissy Spacek from Three Women. That's kind of the character. Both of them. Because she's the accent of Sissy Spacek, but she acts more like Shelley Duvall. But yeah, she kind of does. And then I saw after like a bunch of articles like Shelley Duvall, she looks like Shelley Duvall.
That's so funny.
Yeah. But yeah.
I haven't even seen her in anything. Well, she was in Emma. I just saw that she was in Emma, I remember.
Oh, okay.
The Emma that just came out last year, 2 years ago. But just I keep seeing her face everywhere and I'm like, oh, she's like the new Shelley Duvall.
Yeah. No, promising feature. And honestly, even for you who does not like horror films, I think Pearl is still worth a watch.
Okay. Speaking of Three Women, should we get
Two
into
women.
a movie?
Oh.
Well, a movie that inspired Three Women?
It did. Yes. Let's do.
What's the movie?
The movie is Persona from 1966. Ingmar Bergman. No big deal. It's number 17.
Never heard of it.
Never heard of it. Let's just roll it.
Persona was released in 1966. It was written and directed by Ingmar Bergman. Cinematography by his longtime collaborator Sven Nykvist. Music by Lars Johan Verla. Persona is the enigmatic tale of two women, Elizabeth Vogler, an actress who has given up speaking after a moment of revelation on stage, and Alma, the nurse who is assigned to take care of her. In order to aid in her recovery, Elizabeth's doctor sends her and Alma to her own summer home by the sea. There, the women become closer and closer, with Alma opening up and telling Elizabeth her deepest secrets, while Elizabeth listens intently. Alma feels betrayed when she finds a letter to the doctor in which Elizabeth tells her she has been having a great time studying Alma and finds her fascinating. The film has a series of abstract sequences in which it becomes clear that the women are bound in some subconscious labyrinth in which they are at the same time knowingly and unknowingly becoming the same person, with Alma resisting Elizabeth's unconventional free-willed personality. The film ends with Alma leaving the cottage after having made Elizabeth say a single word: nothing. The film stars the incredible duo of Bibi Andersson and Liv Ullmann. These are Bergman's gals.
Although it should be noted that this was Liv Ullmann's first film with Bergman.
I was about to say that.
Wow.
Also stars kind of Gunnar Bjornstrand as the husband of Elizabeth, who comes and...
Elizabeth.
the husband of Elizabeth, who is like kind of blind, I guess, and Alma starts like kissing Alma, and Alma's like, I'm not Elizabeth, and then kind of gives in. He's only in it for a second, but he is also Bergman's staple. Beebe had been working with Bergman for 15 years at this point, but this was Liv Ullmann's first collaboration with the director. The two were famously a couple for 5 years, and the romantic relationship started on this film. They worked together for 40 years to come. Liv starred in 12 of his films total. The couple never married, but they had a child together. And it's really funny because like Beebe Anderson and Ingmar Bergman were also a thing. And it's like Beebe
before this.
Yeah, Beebe and Liv were like very close friends. But there's this, I mean, no one knows really if like Beebe and Ingmar were still a thing when they started this. And then him and Liv kind of...
So Beebe has a story about her and Liv were walking down the street and they saw Bergman.
Yeah.
And that was Bergman's first time meeting Liv Ullmann.
And he said, I want to work with you.
He said, I want to work with you. And Beebe said it was more like he wanted, here, actually I have a quote from her. She said that he wanted to get inside of it, involved, their friendship, their relationship.
Bergman originally planned on making a film called Cannibals with the pair of actresses. However, he got a lung infection which resulted in pneumonia. And the concept for Persona came to him during his time in the hospital. He was also the head of the Royal Dramatic Theatre in Stockholm, which made him like really overexhausted. The film he made prior to this, All These Women, was a flop. It was like this colorized comedy. I've never seen it. And he believed that Persona saved his career and his life.
And his life, yeah.
Yeah. The film was shot on Fora, aka Bergman Island, where the director would shoot a lot of his work and where he considered his home base. After shooting Persona, he bought property on the island. Him and Liv Ullmann lived there. The scenes in the hospital were shot at a studio in Stockholm. However, he was dissatisfied with them, and they were all reshot in a museum on the island. So basically, the whole movie was shot on the island.
I think it was Beebe Anderson that said that first take, like when they shot on the...
It was horrible.
It was horrible, and she didn't like her performance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love Beebe. I mean, I love Liv.
You know, actually, briefly, Woody Allen did something similar on his film September, which is actually one of my favorites of his, where he shot the whole film and then was like, wait, I'm not happy, and literally just went back and reshot the entire thing.
Imagine having that kind of clout.
Yeah. I think maybe he did it just to be more like Bergman, because I know he's like a huge Bergman fan. He's like, well, Bergman did it.
What's all this drama? Sorry, not to get off topic, but Woody Allen came out and said, I'm retiring, and then 2 days later said, just kidding.
I don't know. He's going to do... Who knows what the fuck he's doing?
So annoying. The film was originally going to be called Cinematography, but the name changed by the studio. Not surprisingly, it was not a big box office hit, but it won the best film at the Guldbagge Awards, which are the Swedish Film Institute's awards every year. It premiered in the US in 1967 at the New York Film Festival. 2 things were edited out for UK and US audiences: the erect penis during the prologue and parts of Alma's very erotic monologue about her...
Yeah, no, let it be known, too, that the penis is in there for a 1/6 of a second.
Yes, yes. And it was Sweden's entry for the Academy Awards. However, it was not selected. Imagine not selecting Persona.
I know.
But the Cahiers du Cinema put it as #1 on their list that year.
They knew what they were doing.
And yeah, this film has gone on to inspire several movies with this kind of dual female identity. Images by Altman, 3 Women by Altman, Mulholland Drive, Black Swan. You have any other ones?
Not with women, but like Fight Club.
Yeah,
you know, even with the splicing of the penis also happens in Fight Club.
Definitely.
And even as Lost Highway, Lynch's Lost Highway, and then even as recently as a film, it was a Sundance film from last year called Superior, also kind of does the same thing with like 2 sisters. Yeah. This is a wellspring of inspiration.
What are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, I first saw this, you know what, not that long ago, maybe 6 to 7 to 8 years ago, something like that. I was very taken with it when I first saw it, in terms of like, it starts and it's kind of the ultimate avant-garde opening to a film. And I remember being completely caught off guard, but also engrossed with that opening. Yeah, it has this kind of, you know what, I don't know that this is the case, but obviously this is 1966 and Tarkovsky had already made his first 2 movies, I want to say, Ivan's Childhood and Andrei Rublev. I think Andrei Rublev maybe also was 66. I could be wrong. Maybe it's like 68. But I want to say with the advent, with Tarkovsky's emergence as this fledgling talent who Bergman was a huge fan of. Both filmmakers were huge fans of each other.
66.
Okay. So probably not. He didn't see it in time to like be inspired by this probably, but he had made Ivan's Childhood and was on the film radar. And I do think that the two filmmakers were deeply influenced by each other. Obviously, Bergman had already been a thing. Bergman made his earliest films like in the early 40s. So at this point, this is 25 years into Bergman's career. So let's set that first. And he'd already made Smiles of a Summer Night, Seventh Seal, Wild Strawberries, all those films. His Silence trilogy was all before this. So this kind of marked a big turn for Bergman. What I like about it, though, is it kind of feels like that Rubber Soul, Pet Sounds, Sgt. Pepper's thing, whereas the Beatles made Rubber Soul, and then Brian Wilson from the Beach Boys like, I can top that, and made Pet Sounds, and then the Beatles heard Pet Sounds like, I'm gonna do Sgt. Pepper's. That's kind of what this feels like. Something about this movie feels very Tarkovsky. Yeah, I can't help but think or hope that Bergman was like really influenced by what Tarkovsky was doing, and they were kind of like riffing off each other. But yeah, basically, it's a great film. This is one of the all-time most talked about movies. I think this is like next to Citizen Kane, this is like the most written about film ever made. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what I can really contribute to the conversation besides it's arresting and groundbreaking and just completely its own thing. And I can only imagine seeing it in 1966. So yeah, I think it is a well-deserved masterpiece. Do I know all of its secrets and ins and outs? No. I think
that's what's so great about it.
That's what's so great about it. And I think to dig too deep into this film almost goes against what the film was supposed to be, where it is this big reset for Bergman. Mm-hmm. It's literally a film within a film, which he constantly takes you out of and says, remember, you're watching a movie. Remember, you're watching a movie. Yeah. It's almost this like blank slate of a film. So there were so many great interviews on the Criterion Channel when you look up Persona. One of them is with B.B. Anderson, Bergman, and Liv Ullmann, shot in like 67, and it's just the three of them doing an interview about Persona. And he said it isn't about understanding. It's always about experiencing emotionally. And I
know that's like your thing. No, we don't have to understand one thing. We don't have to analyze. We don't have to think. Just watch.
Yeah, no, a film should wash over you. And I think too, I know when we did the Nashville episode, I said that Altman was one of my top 3 filmmakers. Bergman is also there up with him in my top 3. I'm a huge Bergman fan. And I think because he just speaks to me in that way. And I love that he said that because...
And yet he put so many secrets in it.
Right. I mean, I'm not suggesting that he's like a David Lynch character where he just like made this all an intuition and there's nothing deeper to read into it. But he put stuff there and then ultimately said like, let it wash over you, and what you can get from this movie, sure, that's what it is. Yeah. It's almost like Rorschach test.
That's what I did. So usually if I like am doing notes for an episode, I try to do like I read what other people have said first, and then I kind of take what resonates with me. But for this time around, so here are my initial thoughts. When we first said we were going to do this podcast, I'm like, oh, how are we going to do Persona though? So when I sat down to watch this, I was like, okay, you know what? Watch it and then you write down everything that you think. Just plainly whatever you think and whatever you take away, then go and read what other people have said.
Good.
So that's what I did. I literally like watched it. I sat on my computer. I wrote all of my thoughts and then I watched those interviews. Then I did research. But I think I saw this after I saw Seventh Seal and Wild Strawberries, and I had no idea what I was getting into. Yeah. I was like, I think this is the abstract Bergman movie, right? Even so, I mean, look at those two movies. Look at this movie. It's so completely independent of everything he did before this. But the key to this movie, I think, is that it is just endlessly entertaining. It is. A lot of these very abstract, enigmatic films can tend to like bog you down. You get really lost in your own thoughts. Your mind is doing somersaults. So much so that you forget that you're supposed to be entertained by this, you know? But Persona has 2 actresses in their prime, a director in his prime, with his cinematographer partner that he's worked with for years in his prime. And they're all working together to just glue you to the screen.
It's like fireworks, yeah.
It is amazing. I love it. The German film critic Thomas Elsaesser has called this film the Mount Everest. So here's what he said, actually. I'll just read the full quote. Persona has been for film critics and scholars what climbing Mount Everest is for mountaineers, the ultimate professional challenge. And Peter Cowie, who's like a huge Bergman scholar, wrote, everything one says about Persona may be contradicted. The opposite will also be true. And like those 2 statements just like that excites me so much.
Yeah.
Like that is just like, it's an endless well of discovery.
You know what's interesting about this movie? It's impossible to watch without knowing who made it and the people behind it. I think most films should work on their own without previous knowledge of the artists behind the camera. But this film is so inherently Bergman's film that you kind of have to know where he was at in his career and stuff to fully appreciate this movie. And what I like so much about it is this film within a film. The film starts with a projector turning on and the images of cinema.
Let's talk about the prologue.
Pornography and religion and stuff. Only to then, we'll talk about it in just a second. I just want to say that he then goes into this narrative, right?
Yes.
Almost to me, this film is him showing off because he brings in this narrative and gets you so invested in it to then just kind of throw it away like a magic trick. Like, okay, I've got you in. Look at this. Like I told you from the beginning, this was just a movie and I pulled you in and you were so into it. And now I'm just going to throw it away and it's like dust in the wind.
Yeah.
And that's there's something slightly sadistic about it.
Definitely. You think he throws away the narrative?
It's not so much that, I mean, look,
He
to an
loses-
extent, to an extent he does because he has you in his grip and because all the pieces make sense. And then he starts getting into this sort of vampirism stuff with the blood and them merging. And there's a kind of like, almost like, I mean, it turns into Fantasia. It turns into...
And of course, you have that burning celluloid in the middle of the movie to remind you, like, this is not an ordinary Bergman movie. Hey, remember what you saw in the prologue?
Yes.
And how weird that was? Well, that shit's coming back. Like,
Yeah.
that's what that middle mark is. And it's so great. It's just so interesting. The prologue combined with the opening credits are just it's a journey into the unconscious psyche of the movie, 2, Bergman as a director and film person, and also like the individual characters. So like Peter Cowie, actually, his interpretation of the prologue is really great. He has like a video essay on Criterion. It's really great. But what I really took from it was just obviously like, and even before I watched the Peter Cowie thing, like you watch that thing, you know, it's about like, it's like analysis, right? It's just like a blur, like so many images thrown at you. Just kind of it's very like subconscious. And then there's that penis and even like the carbons on the projector, it's kind of an erect penis already. And it's like all these implications, but there's so much Bergman in it too. Like the spider that's from Through a Glass Darkly.
Yeah.
The little boy that wakes up in the morgue, he is from The Silence. The book he reads is also in The Silence.
Do you think that boy is supposed to be Bergman?
Yes, 100% I think that boy is supposed to be Bergman.
Or
Also,
do you think it's supposed to be...
I know that in the original production credits, he's credited as Elizabeth's son.
Right,
but I don't
the
think
aborted
that's...
child.
Yes. Well, no, he's not aborted.
Oh, right.
Elizabeth's son.
Oh, Elizabeth. Yeah, right,
the one that she like kind of abandons. But going back to like these... I'll get into that in a moment. But going back to the Bergman Easter eggs, because I just want to finish because I thought they were so cool. I haven't seen The Passion of Anna, but that came after this, and it involves like sheep killers.
I haven't seen that one either.
Anyway, that's why like there's a sheep murdered in it, and then like
that
in the
scene
prologue.
is actually from Unchained Andalou.
Sheep.
That's what it said. Yeah, that's what
Really?
Yeah,
I didn't know that. It's also
I believe that's what I read. I don't remember it from Unchained
I
Andalou
don't
either.
remember it either. The little slapstick thing that was made, you know, the like silent film slapstick. That was made by Bergman for another film of his called Prison. And he just recycled it for this and like used it again. And again, it's like this subconscious, just like all these things like film and sex and
Religion.
Bergman and religion. There's the
Christ.
Yeah, the crucifixion. I just love that it is this like exploration into the psyche of this man.
Yeah.
And then also the characters, because they have there's this weird fit of like hands. Do you remember? And then Alma does it later in the movie. She does something similar.
Right.
You know what else is so great? The textures. Do you remember like
how that turns into the trees?
Yes. It's
the
incredible.
wood,
And then the
wood grain.
Yes. And then the extreme close-up of the dead body.
Yes.
So
the burning, the burning, but no. The one that's in the
old
morgue.
Person,
right.
It's like their mouth and nose area.
Yeah.
Going back to the little boy. So Bergman said, I mean, he talks all about how he wrote this while he was in the hospital, and he said that he saw like coffins going into the morgue from his hospital bed, which I don't really know how he did, but that's what he said. And then he saw like a picture of Bibi and Liv, and then he started imagining two women who were like touching each other's hands, and one of them was talking and one wasn't talking. So I think that boy is Bergman coming up with the idea for Persona.
I think so,
because he's just like wiping that screen, and it's Bibi, and then it's Liv, and then it's Bibi, and then it's Liv, and it's so good.
Yeah. It's really good.
I love it.
It's the kind of thing where the first pass through, you're like, what? But yeah, when you
the credits, I love the credits
over the white
and the drums.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Wow. So persona means mask in Latin.
There's a lot to unpack there.
I think we should just start with like, what are your? I'm gonna say it. What's your interpretation of the movie, Greg? What's your like? What philosophy do you stand behind the most? And you have to answer. This is a film podcast.
Here's the thing. I don't have this big, huge interpretation so much as I believe that this film is a canvas. And I believe that it's an exercise more than it is like, it's more a series of ideas than it is like a film. And that's not to take anything away from the movie, but I don't have this like all encompassing, like the film is this. I really do think, and I think the context is important of Bergman being in the hospital and dreaming this up. And so much of it was kind of in a similar way to how Altman dreamt up like three women where it just came to him in a dream. This is all just a lot of subconscious stuff at work here. And I think, yeah, I don't have some big grand takeaway of like the film is this. It's literally a canvas. It's an exercise, and it's an experiment. It's a restart of Bergman's career. It's an ignition. It's this sort of something about it is also very punk rock too, of just like it's very just anti what had come before it. And because look, too, Bergman is the kind of filmmaker who's very like, his films are usually pretty accessible. He usually has a very straightforward narrative. I mean, look at all of them. Wild Strawberries, Seventh Seal. But yeah, this is not that. And I think it's such a key film in his filmography. I think it means so much. Some people call it, a lot of people think it's his best film. I don't really believe that more as it's like a key piece of his filmography.
I agree. I don't
think
it would be fair to say that this is his best film.
Yeah, because it's an exercise. It's an experiment.
It's so different from everything else. So like to say this is his best film is to say that you don't like his regular, you don't think his regular style is good enough.
I don't necessarily, I don't know if I subscribe to that completely, because some of my favorite, I know Tarantino famously says for people who like Jackie Brown the most of his movies, which is the one that was based on a book that was not his, he's like, oh, if that's your favorite, then you don't like my movies.
Yeah, I kind of believe that.
I don't know. I think in some ways this movie ties his whole filmography together.
But only if you know him as a director.
Well, yeah, which is key. It's really, if you go into this not knowing context, you're just thrown to the wolves, basically. I think. Like, you kind of have to know. And I think what makes this movie so special is seeing what came before it, too. And, like, what this meant in his career.
Yeah.
I can see this would be your favorite, but it's just not my favorite in the sense that, like... But does that make me boring that I like his more straightforward stuff?
No, I do, too. This isn't my favorite, but this is a 5-star movie for me. Like, it's incredible.
It's very close for me. I think I gave it 4.5, but it's...
Really? I don't know. There's something about it. Like, I could watch it again tonight and maybe tomorrow.
Well, that's the magic of the movie. That's the allure of the movie. It's, first of all, it's 83 minutes.
And you have just two actresses who are just incredible.
Bergman is the father of the chamber piece. And like,
Yeah.
come on, this Cries and Whisperers, like those
Autumn Sonata.
Autumn Sonata, he's so great at those chamber pieces.
I know.
Is there anyone better in cinema than Bergman?
No.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So ultimately, my long-winded point to your question was,
I don't have one.
yeah, I don't have one. I don't, because this
Greg.
movie is like a Rorschach test, and it's not even a Rorschach test. It's just it's an explosion.
Greg.
It's a firecracker. That's what it is.
I know, but like, come on.
What's yours? Let me hear yours.
Psychology.
It's not so much a character thing, again, because I think as soon as Bergman takes you out of the film and burns the film and then throws you back in, it's no longer about these two characters for me. It's about Bergman. That's my takeaway.
Cool.
What's yours?
Psych, baby. Yeah, I mean, one of Jung's archetypes is the persona.
Mm-hmm.
And the persona is, according to simplypsychology.org, the outward face we present to the world. It conceals our real self, and Jung described it as the conformity archetype. This is the public face or role a person presents to others as someone different to who we really are, like an actor. So, I mean, look, I watched this movie. I think the first time I watched it, this is only my second time watching it, I think. First time and second time, I mean, it's like kind of id and ego.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see
but
that.
it
Yeah.
is.
No, yeah.
And
You're
like
right.
I haven't sat there and like analyzed every frame. It's just like looking at it. I love characters. Like, obviously I'm going to look at the characters and I'm going to study the shit out of them, but I'm not trying to like, I'm not saying he was like trying to say something. I just think that he is presenting id and ego in a really amazing way while tying it all together with filmmaking and the way that like the persona of life through film seen behind a lens and also reality. So Elizabeth is the id and Alma's the ego, and they're fighting against each other. Are they one and the same person? Yeah, I mean, kind of, but also kind of not. So Liv and BB in that interview, they said that they decided that it had to be two sides of one human being, and they presumed it was Ingmar, which is, exactly.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But now let's talk about like stuff that happens in the movie.
Nothing happens in this movie. What are you talking about? First, can we just say what style icons they both are?
Oh,
especially Liv Ullmann in all black with the black headband, and the cigarette.
And the cigarette.
Yeah.
And BB in her glasses. I own those glasses.
You do? I just took a picture of you wearing those.
I'm wearing them right now. I can't see shit. Best glasses ever. So iconic. But let's talk a little bit about the characters.
Let's talk about the characters. You know what's interesting? Maybe this is a coincidence, but I love that B.B. Anderson's character's name is Alma, and she's the caretaker. I don't know if it's coincidence that in Phantom Thread, Vicky Creeps' character is also named Alma, who is this nurturing caretaker.
Yes. That's interesting. That is really interesting. So if we look at like Elizabeth, she has stopped talking. And the doctor, I love the speech that the doctor gives her. And she says, "You think I don't understand the hopeless dream of being, not seeming to be, but being. At the same time, the chasm between what you are to others and what you are to yourself." And of course, this is the whole movie, right? It's like Elizabeth represents, if we're thinking about her as the id, she's just sick of the bullshit. Like, she's sick of this like face we put on. And they always talk about like the babbling. Like, I'm so sick of just like hearing people babble and and I just love that. And then, so it's really interesting because she stops talking so she can stop like lying and really get back to like her primitive self, right? And but then there's that whole thing with like when she watches the footage from the Vietnam War, and then also when she sees the picture of the Warsaw Ghetto,
the photo.
Yes,
yeah.
The photo of the little boy. There's that whole side of it, and it's like, what is that? And it's like I started thinking about it, and of course, a big part of the subconscious is like violence and this like primal violence that we all have inside of us. And it's like, even though she does kind of represent this id, she herself is even so scared of this side of nature. And it's like, and then of course with the cynical religion thing, I love that Bergman just had to throw that in there. When they're sitting on the beach and Alma's reading from some book and she says like essentially what they say in Seventh Seal about like, oh, man is just so scared of nothingness that he invented God. And she goes, do you agree with that? And Elizabeth nods. And then Alma says, oh, I don't. And of course, like because she's the other side of the coin. But let's talk about the scene with the two faces and the famous money shot of like the actresses.
Well, there's a couple.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's the one where they're like kind of
there's the one in the mirror,
wiping her hair away.
There's the one where their faces, their mouths almost come together.
Yes. But I'm talking about the money shot where it's like half of BB's face.
Oh,
half
yeah,
of
yeah.
Liv's.
And
yeah, Alma's resisting this like violence, right? And I love how that shot is like, it's so symbolic in the way that it's like, first we hear the monologue twice. One, it's on Elizabeth being told like all this stuff that she's done. So it's kind of like we see her guilt about this violence that she has inside of her. And then we get it from BB's perspective, Alma reading it to her. And like you can just see it in her face. It's like she's projecting her guilt about her abortion. So she's the one that had the abortion. And she's just like trying to throw it on this side of her, which is Elizabeth, which is like the violent side. She's trying to rid herself of the guilt. But then like towards the end of the monologue, she can't. And they morph into one. And it's just perfect. Like that's the whole movie.
You know what? It's so funny. I disagree. I think that scene is just about performance. Because
I don't think so.
Because why shoot someone? Here's the thing, because I know they covered that scene with two cameras, and I think Bergman was originally planning on cutting back and forth between the two cameras.
Even so, he made this decision, and that's how I see it.
No, exactly. No, he did, which is what I'm saying, because he shows you the same scene twice, back to back, with a different camera on a different woman's face.
Right.
The film then, for me, is about performance. You're literally watching actors. That's what it is for me.
But if you're watching actors do what?
Act.
Okay, but what's the story?
The story is insignificant.
Greg, what?
Yeah.
Okay. You're no fun.
No, I'm serious though. I'm serious. I mean, look, he goes through the trouble of okay, let's take the scene for example when Alma breaks that glass. She's on the back patio and she breaks that glass, okay? So Bergman holds his camera there, and it's this whole scene. Good. She drops a glass, it breaks. She goes and gets a broom. She sweeps it up. It's on this long take.
Yeah.
She's like looking for other pieces of glass. She like sits back, and this is just after she's read the letter, Liv Ullmann's letter to the doctor, so she knows how she feels about her. And literally, I mean, so genius by Bergman. It's almost like show off in like the best possible way, but we know how she's feeling about Liv Ullmann because she leaves one piece of glass there. She notices that it's there. She leaves it there. And you get the suspense of Liv Ullmann coming in.
So good.
She passes it once. She's fine. She passes it twice. She's fine. The third pass, she steps on the broken glass. This to me is, it's kind of narcissistic. It's Bergman being like, look at my craft. It's almost
also for the story.
I almost think it's him. This is a hot take.
So your take is just you should not think about this movie at all after you've watched it.
Well, see, this is the difference between the two of us.
Then how can we have a film podcast?
Because I mean, look, I think my position is still valid in terms of like I'm still taking deeper meaning from it. I'm not saying it's meaningless. I'm just saying it's all turned back to the author, and it's the author being like, this is how you construct a scene, and like in its most simple terms, the way that he's able to racket tension up through just this little piece of glass on the ground.
Do you like the way that it's like it's on Elizabeth's feet and then it shoots up to right in the like nape of the neck of Alma where there's a little opening?
Mm-hmm.
That's like one of my favorite shots. Actually,
yeah.
I think I just gave away my favorite
Oh,
side.
is that your favorite side? Is that the one you had written down?
Oh, shit. I don't remember because I love so many. I don't know what I actually wrote down. Yeah.
It's all right.
I just gave it away. It's okay.
It's okay.
It'll happen.
It's okay. We know now. But no, it is.
Greg, here's what Alma says when that morph is happening. Are you ready?
Yeah.
And they're talking about aborting babies and not being motherly and not having the motherly instinct. I'd really like to have, I haven't, and then they merge.
Uh-huh.
That's what they're talking about. It's an undeniable fact that that's what they're talking about.
Yeah, but that's not what it's really about.
I'm not saying that's what it's real. I mean, what?
It's not.
I'm not saying it's about that. I'm saying it is about the two sides to, it's like Your two sides.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I mean that's not it's there, but it's not, for me, it's not the point of the movie, if that makes any sense.
What is the point of any movie?
Well, most movies have a point. Most movies have...
I'm not saying... But he's not trying to make a point.
No, this is what I'm saying.
I'm saying that too. I'm just saying that that's what this movie is about.
The movie within a movie.
Your conscious and your subconscious.
Right. Yes. No, I agree. The movie within a movie is about that. But is the film persona still?
Still what?
About that?
The film persona is about nothing. The last line of the movie.
Honestly, kind of is. I kind of wish that he had stuck with his
kidding.
original title, cinematography. Because that, for me, that makes it so clear.
You're more on the side of like the... So like, okay, let me ask you something. When Elizabeth kind of pops in shot and she takes a picture of the audience.
Yes. Exactly.
Tell me about that scene.
No, that's driving home what I'm talking about. That's what this film is for me.
So there's two sides. I think that there's one major side of the movie, and then I think that you can't just dismiss what's happening in the movie.
It's not that I'm dismissing it. It's just that it's almost like that's the material that he needs to fuel this film within a film. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it's about authorship.
Him and his mind.
Yes. And again, let's touch on the scene where Alma gives this like 5-minute monologue about this sexual
That's
encounter
one of the most
she had
important
on the beach,
scenes.
which was banned. I guess it was just
In the US
re-added
and UK.
into the US language version like 20 years ago,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is crazy.
Well, they didn't cut the whole scene. They cut like specific things, probably when she's talking about like, you know,
certain things.
That scene, Greg, I can't tell you. The first time I saw that scene, I was so blown away that I literally I rewound the whole thing and I watched it over because I'm just like, how the fuck could you do this in 1966?
Yeah.
And how does it work so well? And why am I so distraught?
It supports my argument, I feel like, it's a show-stopping scene. It's this big monologue. Again, goes into performance, right? This movie's about performance for me.
But also goes into the story.
I agree. But I really think the film is about performance, and what better scene to illustrate that than that sexual beach monologue? But the way, again, that Bergman, the story starts, and you're like, okay. And then as it goes on, you're more and more invested, and you see Liv Ullmann's reaction to it, which I think was pretty genuine. I don't think Liv Ullmann knew what the monologue was before they started filming. It's all performance. It's performative. It's the way it's Bergman flexing, being like, this is how you do a scene. This is how you do a monologue. Mm-hmm. That's what the movie is for me. I know that you're reading this deeper stuff into it, and I'm not saying that's not there, because it is. But for me, I think you're in there with a magnifying glass and I'm out here with like a big telescope. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, just in terms of like, I think that's the way my brain tends to work, especially with art, is the big picture. And for me, the film is about performance. That's it. That's really it. Maybe that's me. Maybe that's me being so overwhelmed by this movie that's the only thing I can kind of circle out of it. But I believe it. Like, I'm not saying it as like a cheap card that I'm pulling. It's about performance. That's the film. Mm-hmm. That's why I wish it was still called cinematography, because it's literally about Bergman, filmmaking, and performance. That's the film.
Yeah.
And I think too, interesting, with the whole burning of the film and stuff, look at the end of Irma Vep.
Yeah.
What's that doing? It's doing persona. It's reminding you you're watching a movie.
Yeah. I mean, one of the last shots of this movie is so striking. It's literally the camera shooting Liv Ullmann. And like, that is another one that I rewound the first time. I'm like, whoa! Because it's weird. It's like a mirror almost. Like the lens is like a mirror.
Yes.
Into her. And it's like...
So we were talking earlier about Lars von Trier. I know you haven't seen it yet. This is not giving anything away. I promise this is not giving anything away. There's a scene in Nymphomaniac. I believe it's Nymphomaniac. I'm almost positive it's Nymphomaniac, where Lars von Trier is operating the camera and he literally just pans to a mirror and shows him with the camera on his shoulder and then pans away. That's the kind of spirit that this movie is. Like, this is that. Like... Mm-hmm.
100%.
Yeah.
But I'm also saying that it's a really striking exploration into the psyche.
Yeah.
Okay, that monologue, that amazing monologue, yes, it's definitely serving this overarching theme of like filmmaking and performance. But if you really think about it, if you look at the language, like sprayed his seed inside me, like it doesn't get more primitive and animalistic and id than that.
Right,
like,
right.
So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that it's kind of simplistic to just say that, oh, this is a movie about filmmaking. It's like, it's not. It's about him analyzing his psyche and the two sides of him. He also said, I watched this interview with him where while he was in the hospital, he's like, he was talking about how like all the guilt he's felt in his life and the shame because of his like really religious upbringing, and like how he's felt like a snake compared to like Jesus, and how he hates feeling like that and how he doesn't want to feel like that anymore. And of course, this movie is that. It's just like, it's understanding why we feel like that and what makes us feel shameful and guilty, and kind of just like, because he's talking about it, he's like exercising it out of him, which is great.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's like all of cinema's most enigmatic classics, like Mulholland Drive, which this was a big influence on. Let's just take that one because that movie's only 20 years old, but that movie's been endlessly pored over and studied. And what is this and what does that mean? And I feel like I got into that. When I first saw Mulholland Drive, I was like, what does this all mean? This all must connect in some way. And I remember in the old DVD from Mulholland Drive, that David Lynch's 10 keys to understanding Mulholland Drive. And I think he was fucking with us. It's like, there's no...
I also feel like Mulholland Drive is not that hard to understand.
Well...
Like, wow, okay, it's a dream, yes.
Not so simple. Not so simple, Jackie. When was the last time you saw it?
Not that long ago. When she's having a dream.
I don't think it can be so easily written off. Like, most of that film is like happening as she's dying or something. Is that...
No, that's not even what I'm saying. I'm saying...
Oh, that is on the list. We will get to it eventually.
Yeah, let's save it.
but no. What I'm saying is, whatever you want out of this, you can pretty much pull out.
Yes.
As this critic said, Bergman said something really interesting about it. He said, I think he was interviewed just a few years after, but he said, today I feel that in Persona and later in Cries and Whispers, I'd gone as far as I could go. And that in these two instances, when working in total freedom, I touched wordless secrets that only the cinema can discover. He also said, at some time or other, I said that Persona saved my life. That is no exaggeration. Yeah, we touched on that earlier. But yeah, he did say one significant point. For the first time, I did not care in the least whether the result would be a commercial success. But yeah, the wordless secrets thing, again, that just reminds me of Tarkovsky and stuff. But yeah, there's wordless secrets. I mean, the movie is a very deep well. It is an endless well in terms of like, yeah. I don't know. I know the screenplay had a more traditional ending. Do you know that?
Something about the doctor telling Alma like, "Oh, Elizabeth has started speaking again."
Yeah, and then Alma just stays behind on the island or something.
Here's my thing. I'm obsessed with Bergman as a writer. I think that he's like one of the most amazing writers, not just of screenplays, of just like literature. Like his movies are literature to me. Yes. They really are. Mm-hmm. And so naturally, I like what people say, and I study it. I really do. Like that last conversation they have before it gets really dreamy, like I rewound that like 3 times and just read it again. Read it meaning like the subtitles, but
right.
Yeah. I don't know. Can I say something I really love about like some of my favorite lines? Like I love when she's kind of tipsy. I think it's after she's given like her long monologue, and she says like, I think I could turn into you if I really tried. I mean, inside. And then she says, you could be me like that, though. And she snaps. I don't know if you get. She says, you can be me like that. Though your soul would be too big, it would stick out everywhere. Like that is so good. And what's so ironic is that she says, like, I could be you if I really tried. But the key is, she's trying too hard right now. She needs to let herself go, and then she'll be more like Elizabeth, who is like, I don't want to say like, I guess like tangibly she's an actress, right? So like that's kind of the excuse she has for being sick of lies and lying. It's like the real world reason why she's like silent, right? But really it has to do with her subconscious. And then like just her personality as someone who, yeah, she doesn't like motherhood. She didn't want to be a mother. She's more selfish. She's more self-centered, very primal and about like her survival. So it's like when I just love when Alma says that, like, if I really tried, I could be like you. But in reality, it's not trying. It's letting go and going into this subconscious part of yourself,
right?
Which I just love. And then again, that last conversation they have, I think, is like really key. It's when she says, like, Alma's like getting really frustrated, and she says, "Is it so important not to lie, to tell the truth, to speak in a genuine tone of voice?" Because she's freaking out because she's just like blurted her guts and she's like really doubting herself.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just brilliant. It's brilliant, brilliant. I love when she tells her, like, when she gets mad, it's like, it's when she's wearing her glasses and she's like, listen, like, I just need you to say something. Say anything to me. I could watch that scene 10 times.
Right before the slapping starts, yeah.
Oh, the slapping is so good.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love it. I just love it so much. And then I love how at the end she's back to wearing her uniform, like she's put on this mask again,
mm-hmm.
and she's trying to distinguish herself so much so that she put on a uniform. It's like, I'm a nurse. This is my personality.
Right.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so good. And can I say that I think this movie is like so significant in the age of social media, because I feel like we as humans have become more the type to babble away. I feel like no one has anything important to say anymore. Or if they do, they put it on social media. And like, how genuine can that be if you communicate through technology to the masses? Like, I feel like, and then when people get together, they don't have anything to talk about. And it's all just babbling away.
Yep.
That's why this movie moves
mm-hmm.
me so much, I think, because like it scares me. I think it scares me.
Yeah, it's kind of a horror movie, actually. There's something really cosmically terrifying about it.
Like, I don't know. When people get together, all they have to talk about is like surface stuff now, I feel like.
That's always been the case, though, I think.
No,
you think more so in the age of social media?
People used to read, and they used to have interests that were not related to social media.
Right. Look, I mean, I agree with you. I think social media has stunted us as a race in so many ways. Like, I think it's caused ADD in a lot of people, and I think also like people are not able to just sit and take stuff.
Yes.
Take things in anymore.
And if you think about like persona itself and this mask we put on, like what bigger mask is there than social media and how you present yourself on social media versus yourself in real life?
That's a good point.
It really stresses me out. Like,
well, don't get too stressed about it.
I was watching this movie with like my head in my hands. I was just like, oh, like this is happening now and always. I don't know.
It's a very uncomfortable movie.
Let's talk about the unworldly cinematography in this movie.
I was just about to bring that up. The high contrast black and white.
This is just some of the most gorgeous. I mean, I don't know. I really...
And he goes back to the
biggest cliche of all time, but pause it any second, frame it on a wall, you can do it.
Yeah. Well, too, like he goes back to the sort of Academy ratio in this too, like that. But no, it's such a striking look to this movie, and I think too it helps enhance the dreaminess of the movie, because in the beginning she's in the hospital. That doesn't look like it's a very barren room with a bed.
And
like there's no hospital equipment. There's
nothing.
Yeah.
And I'm obsessed with the fact that like Alma walks in the room, right? And she's talking to the doctor and the camera never leaves Alma.
Right.
And it's just the two women for the longest time until the doctor does come and she has her scene. That doctor actually was like a big Swedish theater actress that Bergman knew because he was the head of the Royal Academy or whatever it was called. He never cast her in anything else. He only they only worked together in theater, and this movie she has like a brief role, which is so weird.
How about Gunnar Bjornstrand? Wait, what's his name again? Bjornstrand?
Bjornstrand.
Yeah, so
Gunnar just shows up.
He shows up. You don't see his face for the first like
he's wearing sunglasses.
40 seconds. Well, no, it's not even like you see her face, you see BB Anderson's face, and you hear him talking, but you haven't seen him yet.
Yes, and he's a big star.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that shot where Alma, they're in the hospital. Alma has kind of like tucked her in for the night, And then we just stay on Elizabeth as the light gets darker and darker and darker, and she doesn't move.
While the classical music is playing. That was almost my favorite sight and sound combined.
My God, chills. Yeah, total chills. That scene makes me emotional.
Yeah.
It's like one shot where nothing happens and it makes me emotional.
That she finally turns over, yeah.
Ugh, and then the shadows on the wall when she's watching the Vietnam War footage. And I love like, because prior to that, right before that, it's Alma giving her first impression to the doctor. Again, doctor is not on screen at all. She's just talking to her. And the last thing she says is, I wonder what's wrong with her. And then immediately it cuts to her watching footage of the Vietnam War. It's so good.
Yeah, I think you only see 4 actors' faces in this movie. Is that right?
The doctor. Well, you have the little boy.
Okay, 5.
Yeah.
Right?
If you count the old people in the morgue.
Oh, right.
That's 2 more.
Okay, never mind. That's gone. No, I mean, the movie, it's that stark beauty too. I mean, it plays with like fog so much. I won't mention.
Smoking.
There's almost my favorite sight where the scene where B.B. Anderson's in bed and Liv Ullmann comes from behind and the house is all foggy and she kind of like comes around the bed and goes into that other room and then it comes back towards the bed and then B.B. Anderson wakes up. Yeah, but like it's very ethereal and ghostly and still and like
and ghostly. So I noticed at least 2 references, 2 shots that I didn't realize were references to Persona from Portrait of a Lady on Fire. Did you catch them?
No, I didn't.
When Elizabeth shows up in her room and Alma goes to her and just puts her head on her chest, that is the exact same shot from Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Oh, okay.
Another very close exact is the amazing tracking shot on the beach when she's running to apologize.
Oh.
Same thing in Portrait of a Lady on Fire. She's running and saying, I'm sorry, and trying to catch her on the beach.
Wow.
I know, and we didn't even get into like I don't know, the sexual tension between them.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's so much here.
Yeah.
But yes, and then I looked it up because I just Googled after that because I'm like, has anyone else noticed this? And sure enough, there's a whole blog about Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Persona.
Oh, cool.
It's really cool.
I never made the connection
It's
before
really,
now.
really cool.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know how they got that tracking shot on the beach because it's moving. She's running, and for most of the shot, they managed to keep her like right in the center of the frame too. Is she running barefoot on those rocks?
I don't know. That shot is amazing.
Yeah.
I don't have a favorite sight. I really don't. I know I said that was my favorite earlier, but like everything I just listed are also my favorites. You know what's strangely one of my favorites? And this is very Bresson. When there's a letter on the table, it's all one shot. It's just like Alma's hands coming and saying, oh, you have a letter. Do you want me to open it? She opens it. And then it's like all one shot. I think Bergman is the director that has let me down the least. In fact, never.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever been let down. I don't think I've ever seen a Bergman movie I don't like.
The only time I was a little bit miffed by Bergman was when I first saw Cries and Whispers because I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't ready for it.
Why not?
It was too powerful. I don't know. But I mean, I love it now. But I'm just saying, like, I agree. Bergman has never let me down. Like, I know we agree on this. I don't think that of his classics, I think Wild Strawberries is like okay. I think it's good. It's good.
But
too. I don't think it's better than good. It's just like, oh yeah, it's a good movie.
Yeah.
But the way that some people talk about Wild Strawberries,
I'm excited to rewatch it.
God.
We might change our minds.
It's on the list. Yeah. Yeah, so this is our second Bergman. Coming up in 2 weeks, we have Fanny and Alexander, and then it's Wild Strawberries. I guess that's it, right? Because we've done Seven Seal already. Because he has 4 on the list or 5? He has 4. But I mean, there should be more. Honestly,
listen, this movie ended, and I'm just like, I'm not ready to leave the Bergman verse. I really wanted to watch. Like, I made a list of all the Bergman movies I'm watching this week.
You know what's really interesting about this movie? I feel like it helped popularize avant-garde filmmaking.
Of course.
And again, you can feel just a couple years later, 2001: A Space Odyssey, which we have an episode on. I feel like take some cues from Persona.
Of course.
That's not to say that anything radical or experimental owes a debt to Persona, but I do see like a very distinct through line, especially with the last act of 2001, the whole Stargate sequence coming from Persona, especially in the way that it tells that story, the way that Bergman's prologue is in this film. That's the Stargate sequence in
Yeah.
2001. It's the exact same type of storytelling.
Of course. And of course, but Buñuel was doing it kind of.
No, that little bitch. Just kidding. Yeah, he was. But not, here's the difference with Buñuel. Buñuel was a more traditional surrealist. I wouldn't say that Persona is surreal, and I wouldn't say that 2001 is surreal. I just think that it's a more experimental approach to telling the story, but it's telling a story. Whereas I feel like But
I thought you said there is no story.
No, of course there's a story. But I'm saying that the nature of surrealism is that
there's no story.
It's just to disrupt the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do sight and sound.
Let's do it.
What's your favorite sight?
I mean, I kind of already said it.
There's no favorite. You don't have one.
It was everything I said, but I especially love that shot where it's like, yeah, there's glass on the floor. It's Elizabeth's feet walking just past it, and then the camera whoops up to this little crevice between Alma and the wall, and it's just genius.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
There's no better word to use there, really.
Yeah.
Mine is right after Alma she reads the letter that Elizabeth was sending to the doctor, and she's very distraught. And then it's a shot of her standing by this pond, just staring into the pond. That's my favorite sight.
It's amazing.
But again, it could have been so many things. This movie is just one incredible image after another.
I totally agree.
What's your favorite sound?
Okay. Favorite sound? My favorite sound, because this is a line that has stuck with me since the first time I saw it. It's a line. It is after they've had their first big fight. It's when Alma,
her nose is bleeding.
No. It's right before that. Then it's when she's wearing her glasses. It's when she's wearing the iconic glasses to prevent Alma from studying her anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And she says
again, performance. The theme of performance.
It's amazing. She says,
no, I'm just saying my theme of performance.
She says, yes, I know. And she says oh, you've been using me. She's very angry. Now that you don't need me anymore, you toss me aside. But it's true. And these glasses. This is what it sounds like.
Du har använt mig. Till vad vet jag inte, men nu behöver du mig inte längre så kastar du bort mig. Ja då, jag hör utmärkt väl hur det låter. Hur falskt det låter. Du har använt mig och så kastar du bort mig. Det är så det har blivit, varenda ord. Så de här glasögonen.
So that's my favorite sound.
Good.
It's so good. And these glasses.
Yeah.
And again, I feel like that is so meta. That is them recognizing in the look how ridiculous these glasses are.
Right. Exactly.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And the way her performance and the way she throws it, and
yeah,
I just love it all.
The movie is so meta without seeming that meta.
Exactly. Because there's
Which
so
is
many
key.
other movies that are so meta, but we know you're being meta.
Exactly. My favorite sound, it was that scene I mentioned earlier, the foggy nighttime scene where B.B. Anderson's in bed and Liv Ullmann comes from behind her and goes into the other room. Mm-hmm. It's just the sound of the foghorn in the background because the fog has crept into the house and you hear it in the background. Here it is. We'll play a clip.
Amazing. I wish I wore a nightgown. That looks so comfy.
You don't wear a nightgown?
Only on very special occasions, Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. Okay. I have one. I wear it every night. I have slippers. I have the nightcap with the ball at the end.
So you're Scrooge.
Make a cup of tea.
You're Scrooge is what you're saying.
I look like Scrooge, but a nice version.
Yeah.
Like a film guy.
A film grandpa.
Yes, exactly. Stroking my beard.
Having an English fog.
It's actually called a London fog. English breakfast tea, London fog.
I'm so sorry.
Wow. Pauline.
Oh no.
Okay, here we go.
Am I ready?
I don't know. This is the segment where we read Pauline Kael's review of the film. Just so you know, too, I'm reading Pauline's review basically right now for the first time. Okay. In this film, as in his very early Prison, the writer-director Ingmar Bergman involves us in the making of a movie. He gives us a movie within a movie, but he seems hardly to have made the enclosing movie, and then he throws away the inner one. You can feel it go at the repeated passage when the director seems to be trying an alternate way of shooting a sequence. It's a pity because the inner movie had begun to involve us in marvelous possibilities. Most movies give us so little that it seems almost barbarous to object to Bergman's not giving us more in Persona, but it is just because of the expressiveness and fascination of what we are given that the movie is so frustrating. There is, however, great intensity in many of the images, and there's one great passage. The nurse talks about a day and a night of sex on a beach, and as she goes on talking, with memories of summer and nakedness and pleasure in her voice and the emptiness of her present life in her face, viewers may begin to hold their breath in fear that the director won't be able to sustain this almost intolerably difficult sequence. But he does, and it builds and builds and is completed. It's one of the rare, truly erotic sequences in movie history. Though it's possible to offer interpretations, I don't think that treating Persona as the pieces of a puzzle and trying to put them together will do much more than demonstrate ingenuity at guesswork. It's easy to say that the little boy reaching up to the screen is probably Bergman as a child, and he may also represent the nurse's aborted baby and or the actress's rejected son. But for this kind of speculation, and one would have to go through almost every image in the movie this way, to have any purpose, there must be a structure of meanings in the work by which an interpretation can be validated. I don't think there is one in Persona. If there is, it is so buried that it doesn't function in the work. We respond to the image of the little boy, not because he's Bergman or an abortion, but simply in terms of the quality and intensity of the image. But we don't know why it's in this film. It may be that an open puzzle movie like this one, which affects some people very profoundly, permits them to project into it so much of themselves that what they think the movie is about has very little to do with what happens on the screen. This kind of projection, which we used to think of as the pre-critical responsiveness of the mass audience, is now common in the educated audience. People can be heard saying that they didn't worry about whether it was good or bad. They just let it happen to them. And if the educated audience is now coming around to the larger audience's way of seeing movies, I would suggest that they are also being sold in the same way as the larger audience, that advertising and the appearance of critical consensus it gives to certain movies are what lead people to let certain prestigious movies happen to them, just as the larger audience lets an oversized musical spoof like Thoroughly Modern Millie happen to them. What? The idea, it must have just come out. The idea is that art should be experienced, not criticized. There seems to be little sense that critical faculties are involved in experience, and that if they are not involved, advertising determines what is accepted as art. I feel like I had to read that whole thing because I couldn't.
Damn.
Yeah, really profound stuff from Pauline. I can't, it sounds like she doesn't really like the movie. She thinks that there's some striking stuff in there, but I think her overall takeaway is kind of being like she didn't get what she wanted from the movie, which I can't really blame her because it sounds like she kind of got wrapped up in the film within a film
narrative, and then she kind of
yeah. Anyway, that's Pauline. Should we do Letterboxd?
Yeah.
I've got a 4-star here. So this is how men feel after watching Fight Club.
Yes. I love that.
Except Fight Club sucks.
Half a star. This might be the worst movie I have ever seen.
A lot of those. Yeah, I can see if you're not a film person, if you're not into like cinema, this is like
I'm so
this is a limited test.
I wish I could show this to someone who doesn't watch a lot of movies. I just want to see their reaction. It's like I approach someone, I'm like, no, I just want to talk and put this on.
I don't know. That sounds dangerous to me. I got a 0.5-star review here. It just says, there were parts of this movie that were so good and I could see it being such an iconic film, but the stupid flashes of art film chaos and that one weird orgy story fucking ruined it.
Oh
LMAO.
my God.
Why did this movie have to be so try hard?
That orgy story is arguably maybe the best part of the
Yeah.
movie. I don't think this movie has a best part, but
It's up
that's
there.
in the top
Yeah.
3. That I don't know. That might be the one. Half a star. 2 women sitting on an island, no feet apart because they're very gay. That's the whole review. Half a star. Well, that was the Mount Everest
Yeah.
of movies.
Yeah, this one was in some ways I'm glad that we're done with this one
I
because
don't know if I am. I could talk for like hours more. You're gonna kill me.
I believe I've said almost everything I have to say about this film at this
You'll
point.
just have to read. So these are my notes, but like these are not. I knew I wasn't gonna mention everything in this document. It was just my notes while watching it. But enjoy them.
I will enjoy
It's a small book.
Yeah, you should sell this. What's next week? Next week we have a very special episode. Should we say the film or do we just tease it?
We should tease.
We're gonna tease. It's a personal print because it's been a while. We're doing a personal print next week, and we have a very exciting guest that was involved with the film. We'll just say the lead actress from the film came on to talk to us. So
exciting. This is a movie I hadn't seen before. A movie that Greg is a champion of. And after seeing it, I am as well. This movie's incredible.
yeah, it's kind of a criminally underseen film, but everyone that sees it is like pretty profoundly moved by it.
I love it.
So that's all we're going to give you. If you follow the Arroyo Film Club Instagram page, again, that's ARROYO Film Club on Instagram. A couple days before, probably on Friday, we will tease the film. We'll give an image. We'll post an image from the film. If you get it, you get a thumbs up. And yeah, so very special personal print. Very excited for this one. This movie means a lot to me, and I'm very excited to do a whole episode on it. Until then, I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
Have a great week.
Actually, I'm Alma.
I'm Elizabeth.
Bye, everyone.
This has been an official podcast of the Arroyo Film Club. Seen and Heard is Jacqueline Pistachian and Greg Kleinschmidt. Theme music by Andrew Cox. You can find us at seenandheardpod.com.